Hello and welcome to Electripreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast. We're here with you 5 days a week to simplify sales, master pricing, and deliver premium level service. I told Joe before the show I was actually going to purposely swap those because today's topic, or at least a big piece of it, is a simplification of sales. Before the show today, we found ourselves just passionately discussing our industry, electrical, right? Service electricians everywhere. We're here to help you. And we're just gravitated to this because I'm a master electrician, your host, Clay Newmeyer, and my co-host, master electrician, Joseph the Salesbot Lacani. And we're doing everything we can do to push this industry forward in a direction that not only serves us at a higher level, but all the people that are calling us to help them with their electrical needs. Joe, how important is this simplification of sales?
Oh my God. People, for some reason, have come to believe that the only way to succeed in sales is to have this long, complex process with algorithms and tracking, and you got to pay someone else to manage it because you can't do it yourself. And that's just not the case. We've let other industries lead us down that path when we don't have to do it. There are way easier ways to overcome. And I'm pumped to get into that with you.
It's crazy. For example, last week we actually gave something away. If you're with us on the Facebook group, the Community Electripreneur Secrets, then you would have seen this action post. Basically, every week we give some free stuff away. And that's the advantage to coming and seeing us on Facebook, where we can engage a little more. It's not so unidirectional, a little more bi-directional communication there. And one of those things was really coming off of our F Price Books podcast once upon a time. And it's in favor of service pricing, service rate, we call it, actually, the anti-price book method. And yesterday I followed up with one of our clients, and he had actually told me that the service rate method was one of the biggest wins he'd encountered with us so far in just a couple of months. So big a win, guys, you're not going to believe it when I say this. He said to me on this interview, this little case study interview we did, a little review, he said, I've spent over 1,000 hours on my price book. Over 8 years, over 1,000 hours invested. And when I found your guys' service rate method and just the littlest tweak to simplify that pricing so that I could simplify my sales process and remove any of these shadows of a doubt of, is this the right item? Can my guys really use this? Is it the right duration? He gave it all up. He's deleting massive blocks of his price book from House Call Pro as we speak in favor of this simple method that his staff have embraced and are able to make bigger sales because they're able to focus on yours truly, the client. That doesn't surprise you at all, though, does it?
It really doesn't, because way too often we focus on, well, the line items and the breakdowns and this and that, and I got to make sure my markups. No, it's not necessary. I didn't do that when I was in the field, and I was still able to do 1.3 million out of a van. So if you think about that, what could you do following this same principle if you didn't have to run a business? If you were just behind the seat of a van, you were able to go to sales calls with this method, you should be looking at 1.3 in the rearview mirror. And I believe that the process has the capability of doing that. So no, it does not surprise me at all, Clay.
Absolutely. And as I think about that, I think about all the times that I was drawn in to complicate my sales processes in my various businesses, and even this one today. And the intuition, gut will always tell you to add more details. So maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe I just need to explain more. Maybe I just had to make a pamphlet or provide some additional value. But that's not it either. Now, we're generalizing here a little bit, but for 80% of the time, I would say, honestly, the answer is simplification, saying less and asking more, and only answering to what the concerns are.
Correct.
We tend to fill this void with just like information. I'm so guilty of this. I'm a teacher, right? And as an electrician perfecting a process, it's so easy to fill voids by continuing to talk. So much
Hmm.
so that I've actually got an acronym I've got written. In our
Oh,
sales
share it.
process, I've literally written it. Have you ever heard this one before? WAIT. WAIT. Do you know what that one stands for?
I've heard of it, but I'd love to hear what you're going to say.
Why am I talking?
That's true.
And if you really like, if you could, if you remember like Scrooge, the show back in the day, put pause, we're going to land here and observe a situation and then talk about it with the old jerk. If you could pause time and sit on your shoulder and really look into this moment, why am I talking? Well, it's to
A lot
communicate
of
value. Well, what value? Well, the value that I think they want to hear.
that you
Oh,
think they want to hear is the real magic question right there.
oh, that's a little presumptuous, isn't it?
Hmm.
How many situations are we getting into like that? Guys, if you're driving down the road in your van, you're at the gym, you're in the office, feel free to raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I've been there a time or two."
Hmm.
We're in the mud with them right now, right?
It's true. And
Ever
really
felt
the
that way?
biggest important, yeah. I mean, because if you think about it, a lot of times we believe that the customer has no interest in buying and that the only way that we're going to get to sell them on something is if we can come up with an amazing line or script or something that they're suddenly going to go, aha, now I have to use you. And unfortunately, a lot of us tend to believe it's in pamphlets, brochures, breakdowns, discounts, material lists. Like, oh man, they're gonna know that I'm offering a 4560 QO series square D with a copper bus. Now they'll know it's quality. It's like, no, they don't. He's an accountant. He has no idea what you're talking about.
100%. You ever heard this? A confused mind never buys.
Yeah, that's gospel right there. Confused mind always says no.
Okay. So, how do we reduce clutter for someone who's confused?
So the best thing that I can think of is it's two-part thing. One is we have to be mentally and visually assessing whether they're giving body language that we're losing them, because that is communicated way before they ever say anything. Do you mind if I tell you what that might look like?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when someone starts to be lost, and it's almost a joke, where you feel like, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh, that's crazy. Wow. Like that's literally a joke that some people come up with.
Yeah.
But what you'll find in the realistic term is that people start to glass their eyes. They'll actually stop moving their faces as much. Their eyes will move a little bit, but their faces will stand still and it almost looks like it's completely glassed over. What they're doing is it's actually showing that they're listening, not to listen, but they're waiting for you to stop talking so that they can say what they actually want to hear. And unfortunately, some salespeople don't recognize that pause and they think, oh, I got him in the moment. He's thinking about this. When really all they're thinking is, when is this guy going to shut up and let me buy this thing?
Powerful. Powerful.
Mhm.
And I can see that and I relate to that. It happens to me, but that would be a wait moment,
Mhm.
right? There you are. You're back. You're back in detail. You're out of
Yeah, I was
focus
going
for
to
a
say, I was
second.
wondering what was going on with
Yeah.
my screen.
Yeah, that would be like a why am I talking right now? What am I trying to communicate? And is it a solicited communication? Is there a reason for it right now? One of the things I love about our process is it's permission based the entire
Mhm.
way. We're constantly setting them up to be either in our sales funnel or out. I love that. It's just a confirmation. And that's
Mhm.
even in the opportunity call script, you're saying like the 8 commitments.
Correct.
Really, those are all permission based moments where they're clarifying if they're still our customer or not.
Correct. Because the biggest reason, if you wouldn't mind me stitching into that for a
Of
moment,
course, of course.
it's realistically the customer has called you for a reason. Now, we may think that reason is broad, right? They have something wrong. Maybe they don't. They want a quote. Maybe they don't. We don't know what they want until we hear them say it. And even then, that's only one commitment. Wouldn't you also want to know why they want it done? Why now they want it done? Who would be affected if they didn't do it? All these things are important questions to ask. And as they continuously go through it, they're giving you willing commitments as to why you're the right person to help them. And then at the end, You've eliminated all the reasons why you weren't the right fit. So it's just you and your price. And if you've already proven beyond any reasonable doubt that you're clearly the right choice to be here, price is easy to overcome.
Absolutely. I love that. And I just want to really highlight this, the importance of the questions and the listening. That's the most important piece in my perspective. And I would be curious to see as a challenge, if people were to record, how many questions do I ask throughout my process currently? And how much time am I actually spending listening? And I would bet that if you had a stopwatch from the moment you arrive to the moment you diagnose and make an offer, that they're spending, on average, the average electrician probably spends less than 5% of the time listening.
It's unfortunate.
And it's actually something that we've come to see in our own metrics. And because we do meetings online so much, we've got a little dial telling us how much we've monologued. That's an advantage here, right?
It keeps me from frothing at the mouth, all right?
Anyways, we could go down this rabbit hole for a while. I want to relate this back to our topic today, which is house facts, something that we're all very passionate about. And we've just set this up in a way that's very important, I think, too, Joe, because we first communicated that we don't want too much information too soon.
Correct.
That's the enemy here. But we all have Carfax. How does the slogan go again?
Show me the Carfax.
Show me the Carfax. Before you buy a car, you look at the
Carfax. You literally say, show me the Carfax. That is the actual scripted line.
But houses don't really have house facts. I've actually Googled this and proved myself wrong. There are entities called house facts, but nothing that resembles Carfax for a house. Unless the owner takes that pride of ownership and has that continuity for when that transfer occurs, there's no one else mandating that needs to be done or should be. That blows my mind, Joe. So what are your thoughts on taking this time of, and maybe even help us with the phasing of this? So we began by saying, you know what, too much information is not good. Now we're saying, hey, we should have more information. I mean, is this just a timing thing then? How do you see this playing out?
I actually learned that this is a way of handling an objection and actually getting another level of commitment. Do you mind if I go into that?
Please do.
Okay. So a lot of times where I found this come up the most is, let's say we're meeting with a customer, we're going through side by side, they decide that they want it and they're like, yeah, we're going to move forward with it. And then somewhere along the lines, either they ask or they'd call us and say, hey, I never really got a breakdown on this. Do you mind sending me the information just so I have it for my records? Like, that's the funny thing. They always had that last little bit that's like, oh, for my records, I do this for everything. Can you send me all the information, like the material and the breakdown and the invoice? What is really being communicated in that statement when they're doing that?
You know what? Could be several reasons, but please tell me.
So really what's being communicated in that is they want to move forward, but they're hesitant because you're so different than their typical process that they're used to, that it makes them feel like they need to get more information. Now, it also can communicate that they're getting buyer's remorse and that they're trying to pull away or find a reason to pull away. In either circumstance, this next line is going to help you overcome it. And that's why I love it so much.
All right, help us out.
So, okay. So let's say someone were to come to you and be like, hey, just for my own records, do you have a copy of the information, the material, the breakdown? I'd be happy to help you with that, Clay. And in fact, I'm sorry for not bringing it up sooner, because we actually have something that's specifically made for that. What we do is we do a post-sale or a post-installation project folder for you. Or what we've done is, because we have done everything white glove and turnkey for you, where we gather your utility permitting, your town permits, the inspections, the material ordering, the installation packets, all of those things, we'd be giving it to you piece by piece by piece. Instead, after the job is done, we take before and after pictures, we put it into this folder, and then you can have it both for your records or for when you try to sell the house and you can show it to the next person. So you've left it there and you say, when we finish the installation, we will provide you this information. Why do you think that is the linchpin of this system?
Well, to me, again, the separation, if we're referencing the timing right now, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes the linchpin because that confused mind's never going to buy. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
engage with the logical brain and have them become a scientist of electrical before they can make a decision about who they want to work with and what they want
Mm-hmm.
to do. I want them to make that based on the quality of life that they're experiencing and the picture we're able to paint about the experience they could be having.
You're pretty damn close. That's actually the first half of it.
All right.
The second half, so that would actually appeal to the first person. If they're like, I just want it for my records, completely harmless. I just want to see it so that I have it for the future. Like I
Right.
do that. Every time I ever get an invoice for my house, I save an invoice, I get the permits, I put it in a folder.
Yeah.
Just how I do it. So if that was the kind of person that was asking, they'd be like, wow, yeah, you guys think of everything. That's awesome. But the kind of person that's doing it because they want a breakdown isn't going to be okay waiting until it's the end of the installation. They're going to say, well, I mean, before you install it, I want to see it. And now we can go into our further objection handling. And that could be almost a pull. Instead of pushing, be like, Clay, I completely understand where you're coming from. And, I have heard in the past before that people are looking for this information before we start the installation. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Typically, whenever I find that happens, because someone was either confused about what they were getting, they didn't feel like the value lined up, or they didn't feel like what we were offering was the right fit at the moment. If that's ever the case, do you feel comfortable? Would you be comfortable even telling me that?
Yeah.
That's the important part. It's if you felt that way, would you even feel comfortable telling me? You want to hear that they're able to come to you with an objection. Because if they're going to use the paper as an objection, the way that they would solve it is, well, I have this breakdown. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm going to send it to my cousin, John, who's a contractor in God knows what state. He's going to look at it. He's going to tell me that I'm getting ripped off because I should be doing this for $55 an hour in a case of beer.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come back to me and tell me that, no, unfortunately, I got a guy who can do it cheaper.
Ouch. And then they're going to come
Yep.
back and listen to us and try to figure out how they can get over the $55 an hour in a case of beer.
Exactly. It's not
Circle
going
of
to work.
life.
I know, right? It literally wouldn't work. So either A, if they're just running it for records, we're okay. If B, they're wanting it because they want to go through and break it down, we're going to get them to admit it by saying, if at the very least, if there was any uncomfortability, would you at least feel comfortable telling me so that I could improve the level of service I'm providing to you?
I like that. That's a good handle. Definitely. And that pulls the technique that I've learned from you as well. That's why they call you the sales bot, Joseph, and why we continue to honor that name.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. And it really does draw that line again. Are you in my sales pipeline or are you not?
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. Love it. Love it. Love it. But I also love this house facts. I
Mm-hmm.
love this post job for a couple of reasons. One, I'm an old school project guy, been through a ton of projects, can tell you firsthand that when your quality management isn't in place and the quality assurance documentation isn't in place, bad things happen. Like you don't
Yeah.
get work again. Like when stuff goes wrong because you had a crew of 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people, you're trying to figure out who did what, who messed it up, who's responsible for fixing some of this stuff. Now, in the residential situation, a lot of guys go, well, it's not really been here. It's not something we need to do. But I actually love this concept of house facts. And we've even created a systems worksheet that is basically a commissioning document. So when you're done, you could list, you literally have it even pre-templated, listing the task steps that you took, the fact that you did torques, right? Any IR heat checks you did, any of that stuff. So all the details are there, not to mention at the end, a walk down with a sign off place for a client to say, you know what, you guys did fantastic here. I'm happy, you're happy, job's done. Included in this packet, like you said, photos, now your quality control points, and the list of steps you took, the work you did.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven forbid another electrician had to take your place.
Oh God.
But even if it was a different electrician within your organization,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be nice to know exactly what happened with that client?
Hmm.
Wouldn't it be nice to have that lineage, that continuity for any person who wanted to understand the products and the service that were put in place?
I love that. And in addition to it, I feel like that's a differentiation moment right there.
Hmm.
Because if you think, like, granted, you've seen so many projects and so many job sites that I'm sure you've got a good taste for it at this point.
Yeah.
There's a whole range of different kinds of electricians,
Yeah.
not just skill level, but like integrity level and quality level.
Of course.
I'm sure that if you didn't have this information, that you signed off the permit, that this was inspected, that the utility company came here, that here's my before and afters, that I did my cleanup, and here's my invoice, and here's my breakdown. I am sure there is someone who's going to say, "Oh yeah, that happened because the last guy came, and oh, it's going to be expensive to fix."
Yeah.
This prevents that as well. Because if you can prove that you documented your stuff to such an extent that multiple different hands were involved in inspecting your installation, so much so that you could take pictures of it, what would that say?
You would
It's
communicate that you care. You'd
almost
communicate.
like armor. It's like
Yeah.
armor. No one could ever like badmouth you at this point, whether it's the customer or your competition.
It's the same with the 10-point visual inspection.
Mhm.
And I call it a 10-point, but many people put this into play. You should have a 10-point inspection or an inspection process of some sort to identify other things. Here's a fine example. Last time the batteries were changed on a Smoky.
Ugh.
Last time it was
Never,
tested,
never. No one's testing them.
right?
No one's testing them. Yeah.
And any home that I've ever occupied, the only place I've ever seen a date around the testing, batteries, or manufacturer date is on the Smoky itself. And it's on the underside, which you need a ladder to access.
Mm-hmm.
Smoke rises. I don't know how to get around that. The Smoky's got to be on the ceiling. Shouldn't we have the information somewhere else?
You know what would be even better? I just thought of an idea, and I'm okay if you're cool with me just spitballing something.
Of course, that's all this is.
How cool would it be if not only did we do the panel labeling, but we actually included like a clipboard sheet or a physical laminated sheet on the inside of their panel and said, "This is your new electrical information enclosure," to where they could have their smokes, their GFIs, and their labeling all in one place
Yeah,
and with your company letterhead and number on it.
that's what I did, Joe.
Mhm.
In my short stint in residential service, I definitely did that. I would have a presentation folder, clear duotang cover with our cover page on it. Again, I've got the project background, so a lot of those tools were just itching to be used. Little
Mhm.
duotang and literally hang it from a screw on the panel. Done.
Mhm.
Done. It's just there. Everything. Last permit, the inspection sign off, everything we did for you. Not to mention, like you said, your name, phone number. I mean, imagine even being another company and showing up to that.
Mhm.
You'd be like, holy cow. Like they don't have it in their process to outdo that, to differentiate from that, other than to fall short of it. Fall
No,
short of it.
I love that. I love that.
Does
And you
that make
know, at
sense?
the end, yeah, and at the end of the day, they're really stuck because a line that I remember that really held water was whenever someone wanted you to match someone else's price. Like, let's say we did great work, we did everything we had, we had labeled, identified, sorted, processed aside, and then some other guy comes in. My favorite's Tank Top Terry. He comes by, he does a visit, and he says he's going to do it for $100 an hour. And now your customer's asking for that price match.
Yeah.
I'm happy to match his price once he's willing to match my level of service.
Yeah.
And the odds are they can't. They're just physically not structured to do so.
Yeah. I want to bring something else to attention here because there's a psychological component that's at work. And quite often on social media, if you're listening to this, maybe you've done this yourself, we recognize that clients don't know what it looks like inside the panel. So a strong play is to show them that. In
Mhm.
fact, in our process, we always take clients to the panel first to do exactly this and have a very
Mhm.
specific conversation at that point that serves us throughout the entire process to make sure that you make those big sales. The very things we talked about in the beginning of this episode. Point I'm getting at, though, is often when you remove that cover, they're seeing the chaos for the first time. Any
Mhm.
mind can recognize that that's not good. There's current flowing through that. Electrical fires are real, right? Water's in here. How did water get through there? Oh, see that corrosion? That's actually from moisture. Do water
Mhm.
and electricity mix, Joe?
I love that line, but no, they don't. I love that.
Right? Everyone can agree on that. No, they don't mix. This is strange. This is not looking good. Okay. But here's what happens when we close that up. You could be the doctor. You could put that back together so well. And that's referencing again the electricians that post pictures before and after.
Mhm.
Looks great. But what can we do to constantly remind them? Because they're not going to open the panel ever again. They might never see the inside of that panel again. And so, in having the post pamphlet, right, and having what we did, the before and after pictures, and in having different things that they recognize every time they go to the panel, then they're reminded of what happened inside. Does that make sense, Joe?
I believe so. I don't know if you can still hear me. My computer just cut out. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can see you and hear you.
All right, great. So I'm just gonna go without I'm just
Yes.
going without a
Yeah.
screen then. But
Yeah,
hey,
you're still
still
here.
here with the audio. We're still ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is by having that reminder, so a thing like a pamphlet there, by having your sticker there, by having that thing polished, shine to the nines on the outside. We used to
Mhm.
carry Square D gray in the truck with us. I literally have paint to touch up
Mhm.
panels, right? Because they
Mhm.
can't see the inside again unless they look at the pictures. And I want them to be reminded of our good service every time they see the panel. Does that make sense?
It really does. And if I can just go off of this again, the reason why it's so important for our clients to see quality is because it's so rare that they ever will see it. They don't get the opportunity to go inside. And mostly, what do they see? The outside from the outlet from the outside of the wall, the panel with the cover on, the lights while they're still functioning. Once you take the cover off, you get to expose the rat's nest that is behind it. And once that gets communicated, now interest can be desired or interest can be created. And once you have interest, desire naturally follows.
Yep, for sure. I can tell you're a bit lost over there. We're going to hit the action items before we lose you altogether. Now, we really talked about two different things. We started off on one subject, which really was
Mhm.
that simplification of a sales process.
Mhm.
And really, I think that really, if you would agree with me, the big picture here is simplification of sales and then adding the details and data at the end to have a complete picture of what happened here.
Mhm.
That makes sense? You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to start the action off with this simplification. And I already threw one challenge up. I really want you to think about how many questions am I asking? How much time am I listening? And in processing that, taking action to develop to have more time to do those activities. This is going to help you avoid the trap that all electricians face, which is coming up with options that are ultimately just material changes.
Right there.
It's a quality of life that we're bringing people. And if
Mhm.
you'll agree with me here, that is simplifying sales because instead of talking about shit they don't understand, we're going to help paint a picture of the shit they do understand. But that takes you understanding them.
Yeah, that's completely
Mic
true.
drop moment.
Yeah, no, I think even though I literally can't see anything right now, I love what you're saying, and I'm going down to the audio because it is so important to make sure that your client doesn't feel like you're just trying to throw impressive words at them, right? I mean, people think about all these technical terms and they say, well, I know if the customer knows this, I'm doing my due diligence of educating them. But really, all you're doing is bringing them further and further away from being able to make a decision. Because the more information you give, if it's not able to be understood, it just creates someone wanting to go, all right, I can't do this. Send me it over an email. I'll get back to you.
Absolutely. So the all-star action would have to lead us to the second part of this. You okay if I take the lead on this one too?
Please, by all means. Yeah. I was going to say, my technical difficulties are what they are. But full
All
steam
right.
ahead, brother.
So on the quality side, all the things you wanted to tell them throughout the sales process, I want you to shift that over to the post-sales process. I want you to shift that over to execution and focus on how do we know? How do we create the understanding and the knowing from our clients that this job is complete in every aspect that we communicated those expectations? And that should be done through some sort of paper trail. This post-job packet that Joe mentioned, right? Have the pictures, have the permits, have like especially the inside of that panel as discussed. Have a sticker that you put on. Make sure to do the panel refurbishments, reconditioning. Relabel circuits if they're not done properly. All of this adds to that complete picture that makes them feel like they're in a safe home that got cared for by a real professional of a trade that cares for and will continue to care for them. And they get that new feel. What's better than that?
There is no feeling better than knowing when you leave your customer fully satisfied, they completely understand what you're getting, and they chose a better option, even though they understood that it was more.
Yeah.
That feels like it's almost like the biggest vote of honor and confidence when they say, yeah, I know this is the premium way. I want it done that way. And I know you can do it the right way.
I appreciate that. We're getting some positive feedback here, you guys. And Anthony says, are you guys doing paper packets? That's in the Electripreneur Facebook community, guys. And yes, we're suggesting you can do a paper packet. I'm a fan of paper and having something physical that they can see and put in their filing cabinet. But of course, this could also be integrated into your house call pros, jobbers, service titans, having all that information accessible to them through their client hub.
Another way that I've seen it done is if all your information was delivered electronically, you could buy bulk flash drives and label them with the customer's information and either store it on your cloud account and then give them the flash drive or otherwise. The reason why I used paper was because let's say you did a generator. We had our permit needed to be physical paper. We had our pressurization test, which had to be physical paper. There was installation instructions. There was warranty instructions. There was a maintenance schedule that had to go into place. So there was already these papers that we would have had to convert to electronic copy. But because we did it otherwise, it was just so much smoother and they could put it right in their file cabinet.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We're running out of time here, guys, but I got to finish this with a strong nugget because Anthony said, that's interesting. I've never heard of the packet concept. I want you guys to know, without a doubt, we're all running around doing the same shit that everyone else is doing. And we're all listening to the podcast with the big interviews like Waste No Days or Hours to get some fresh ideas of what's working for other people. But the common accepted practice is in a box. It's a very defined box. I think we may have just lost you, Joe, but
I still hear you.
Yeah, there you are. You do not have to stay in this box. Here's the metaphor I'm going to give you. If you've ever heard of this, you just go ahead and raise a hand or put a 1 in the chat, guys. 5% of the people in the world control 95% of the money.
It is unfortunate, but it is true.
Guess what? They're doing things different than the other 95%. I'm here to tell you that 5% of electricians are dominating this marketplace. Right? The big ones, the guys you see on Waste No Day, us, Joseph in the past, right? All these things. Everyone wants to be at that level. But the 95% are doing the same shit the other 95% are doing. We need differentiation for you to stand apart. And what this was today, bringing this packet in, is bringing really customer service to the front line again. We want to serve at the highest level and recognize that electrical, the trade, love it. Master electricians right here with you. Business addictions, though, customer service comes first. Amen. Electrical is our conduit to serve people. We don't have to live in this box. We can think outside of the box, and we can do things that have never been before been done that will make them feel great.
Amen.
Now, that's just a borrowed concept from an industrial background where I've provided QA/QC binders in the 10,000s of sheets of paper to say that we did the job well, we did it right, and then our clients would go and read all of that and double check and find the loops in it, the little gaps. In residential, we don't need a big 10,000 page binder. This could be covered in just a few pages. But imagine standing out at that level. Imagine having a reason for your clients to continually remember the service you provided and never have any question about the value that was executed on or anything of buyer's remorse. I hope I said that well. It was a bit of a tangent.
I thought it was great. Honestly, I feel like even though I'm struggling with my technical issues, you are definitely carrying and I am rallying.
And Anthony says, I'm going to keep answering here just because I'm enjoying this. Do you guys think the flash drive thing is cost prohibitive in the long run for scalability? I'm going to say no, personally, and just because of this. It also communicates, and I know you said cost prohibitive, but they're actually cheap. Like you can get them for $1 that'll have more than enough memory. But imagine this look when you're done with a repeat client and you say, oh, by the way, here's your new flash drive. I've gone and taken the liberty of uploaded all your old data from all your prior jobs with us, and it includes this one we've just completed.
Wow. Even better.
Wow.
In addition to that, it's also something saying that we plan on keeping them as a long-term customer. Because if you can say, here's your copy, I want you to know that we'll already be uploading your information to your cloud account. In addition, we also have saved all your circuit labeling so that whenever you need to add a circuit, all you have to do is call us and it's complimentary for us to come back out there and take care of it for you. Now we've got a reason to where they have the justification of saying, well, yeah, this is my company. I'm with them. I'm a vested person. I have an account. I'm online. If I need additional services, they'll come and take care of it for me.
Yeah.
So I personally believe that, yeah, it's not going to be cost prohibitive. In fact, the amount of scaling you're going to see by providing that level of service would definitely offset any kind of material cost that you have to do.
Yeah. And they come in different shapes and sizes. Anthony said, hey, you could do your logo. Absolutely. We're all picturing that skinny little stick, but I've also got some that are the size of business cards with a little flip out plug-in. They're skinny like an ice scraper. Just the same. I mean, that could be hanging off the panel off a little chain, piece of cake. So you guys get to be creative with that. You get to make it your own. We're here with you 5 days a week, and this day in particular, helping you simplify sales, master that pricing, and deliver premium level service. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure today, and I cannot wait to see you again tomorrow for more of this. Cheers to your success.
Take care.